You know, every piece of content you create is fighting a war for attention, and most of it loses that war in the first 10 seconds. Today, we're going to dissect the blueprint that actually wins.
Just think about it for a second. Why do you click away from a video? It's probably not because of some flashy editing or a loud intro. No, it's because the content, it failed to make an immediate, deep connection. It didn't signal that it understood you.
You pour everything into a project, your time, your energy, your best ideas. You hit publish, and then you watch the analytics. And you see that steep cliff where your audience just vanishes. It's so frustrating, and it feels like your message is just being shouted into an empty room.
Well, the antidote to that drop-off begins right here, in those first few critical seconds. It is all about the hook. A good hook isn't a hello or a welcome back to my channel. It's a psychological key. It's a statement that just bypasses your analytical brain and speaks directly to a feeling you already know deep down. It creates a question in your mind that you feel like you have to stay to get the answer to.
Feel that? That line just lands because it speaks a silent truth. It creates this instant recognition for anyone who's ever felt like they were the designated strong friend.
And here's another one. It reframes a common judgment, being called cold or distant, and turns it into a statement of personal experience, totally validating a feeling of exhaustion. Both of these hooks work because they make you think, wait a minute, this is about me.
So what's the psychology behind this? Why does it work so well? A great hook creates what's called an open loop. You present this really intriguing idea, but you don't explain it yet. This creates a kind of light, productive tension. Your brain just needs to close that loop, and the only way it can do that is to keep watching.
But listen, a great hook is just the beginning. It gets you in the door. Now you have to convince you to stay. And this is where you build the core loop to forge that instant connection.
This whole thing is like a simple two-step psychological dance. First, you give them an explanation for the feeling you just triggered. Then, right after, you flip their entire understanding of it on its head.
The core insight is that moment of clarity. So if the hook was, "You're not cold, you're just done," the core insight explains why you're done. We're not talking about complex theories here. It's about providing a simple, resonant aha moment that makes you feel seen and completely understood.
And right after that insight, you break the pattern. This is where you introduce a surprising, totally counterintuitive truth. A line like this takes a familiar negative feeling, loneliness, and recasts it as something else entirely, something powerful.
See the difference? The predictable statement is flat. It tells you something you already know. But the pattern break, that challenges your perspective. It suggests this feeling isn't a weakness at all, but a sign of growth. And that is infinitely more compelling.
Okay, so you've hooked them and you've given them a core insight that just broke their whole pattern of thinking. Now, how do you sustain that engagement through the middle of your content? Well, you build the narrative deeper by maintaining the emotional flow.
This is how you make your content feel incredibly personal. You use short, relatable examples, like describing that feeling of putting your phone on Do Not Disturb, not to be rude, but to protect your own peace. You voice the thoughts they have, but maybe never say out loud. You describe those subtle behaviors that make them nod and say, yeah, I do that too. But you can't let the energy dip, not for a second. To prevent that, you sprinkle in what are called micro-insights. These are powerful, punchy lines that act like little re-engagement hooks, delivering value every 20 or 30 seconds. A line like this is a perfect example. It just arrives in the middle of your explanation and it lands with so much force. It adds a whole other layer to the core idea, making you pause and really reflect on your own relationships. It keeps you locked in.
We've built the tension, we've deepened the narrative, and now we arrive at maybe the most important part of all, the end. How you end your content determines whether it's forgotten in minutes or remembered for days. It's time to land the final impact.
Your last 30 seconds are everything. This is not the time for a summary or a call to action. No, this is the window for the emotional peak of your entire message. Everything you've been building towards culminates right here, in this moment. The whole goal of the ending is catharsis. It's that final, powerful truth that brings everything into focus. It should provide a sense of release, of understanding, and of empowerment. It's the one thought you want to leave echoing in their mind. And this is how you do it. A line like this doesn't just end the content. It reframes your entire experience of personal change. It turns a story of loss into a story of growth. It's powerful, it's memorable, and it provides this profound sense of closure.
Look, this isn't just a formula, it's a framework for empathy. It's about understanding the viewer's inner world and speaking directly to it. So as you go to create your next piece, ask yourself this one question: what powerful truth will you leave your audience with?